Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video. We're going to be talking about neutral palettes. These are the basic of the basic, most neutral palette, top 10 favorite of mine that I have in my collection. So I pulled out 10 eyeshadow palettes based on the color story, based on how neutral they are, and also just based on how much I use them, how much I love them. Across the board, there are so many neutral palettes to choose from, but when looking at the specific palettes that I pulled out, it was all based on color story, the quality of the eyeshadow, and also what I like to get out of these eyeshadow palettes. So like the range of like a basic look to something a little bit more glam and over the top. So if you guys like unfiltered makeup opinions and honest reviews, hit the subscribe button. Let's talk about these neutral, basic AF eyeshadow palettes. We're going to start with eyeshadow palettes that are technically discontinued or were limited edition or are going to be discontinued soon. I wanted to talk about is a very favorite palette of mine. This came out a couple of years ago from Huda Beauty. The Huda Beauty Gold Obsessions eyeshadow palette was available for holiday a couple of years ago, and it was only available on certain sites. It wasn't even available on the Huda Beauty site. It wasn't available at Sephora. It was through one online retailer in the United Kingdom, but I was able to get my hands on the Gold Obsessions palette. The packaging is beautiful, but inside it's really the color story that I absolutely love. This specific palette from Huda Beauty has really blendable mattes. They don't texturize on the eye. It does have a range of shades in here, so you can go a little bit more soft and like, I call it like a ballet pink look, because you can use some of these more like almost salmony tone mattes in here, or you can go very glitzy, very glammy over the top. You can even just use some of these more like, they're almost like eyeshadow toppers, and you can put those on top of like, you know, an already existing matte shade on your eye, and you can create some very like either very dramatic or even just very simple neutral eyeshadow looks. It does have 9 shades in it. Only 3 of those shades, though, are a matte formula. One thing that I have noticed, though, even though it doesn't have a lot of variety with matte shades, it has a great range with the matte shades. So you have a super light shade, you have a medium tone, and then you have a very dark tone. And to me, that is what makes or breaks a palette sometimes. If you have matte shades that don't have any color range at all, and this one definitely has it. It has some shades that are very like eyeshadow toppery, and then it also has some very pigmented, like this gold shade here, very pigmented shades, and it also kind of has this like, it also has like this beautiful goldy, grungy, almost with a green undertone, so it does give a variety of like an eyeshadow topper to a metallic foil, and it also has some like more duochrome shades in here, so like this one is like an eyeshadow topper, but it also provides like a duochrome look to it, and it's just so stunning. Like this one does a pink to a yellow shift. So this eyeshadow palette, although it's discontinued, in my book, it's one of the like top 10 best of the best that I have in my collection. Let's talk about this eyeshadow palette. This is from the independent brand KLARITY Cosmetics. It's the I Love Coffee palette. This was one of the first eyeshadow palettes that I tried from the brand, and I fell in love with the foil formula in this eyeshadow palette. They are very stunning. They pack a punch. And then I also noticed with this eyeshadow palette is that while it's coffee themed, it looks like a menu when you open it up. Like it has this cute little menu on the side here with all the shade names. And it is such a cute themed palette, but it also has a great range of colors. It has a really beautiful cocoa-y black matte over here. All of your cool tone mattes are here, and then it does have some warmer tone mattes as well. So this palette offers both a warm color story and a cooler tone color story. I find that it makes it really easy to use and very versatile in that aspect because it is so, like it ranges from cool to neutral to more of a warm undertone. You can create warm neutral eyeshadow looks. You can create some like cooler neutral eyeshadow looks, and you can also use these gorgeous foils, which are just insanely pigmented. You cannot go wrong with some of the KLARITY foils. They are just insanely beautiful. It has 4 metallic shades, and the rest of the shades in this palette are a matte formula. At the time of filming this video, this is actually on sale, being discontinued from Clarity Cosmetics for $15. Those were the 2 eyeshadow palettes that are like discontinued or going to be discontinued soon. The rest of the eyeshadow palettes, as far as I know, are still available for purchase on each brand's website, or like at Sephora, or you can buy it at Ulta Beauty. And these are the next eyeshadow palettes, and we will be saving some of my most favorite ones for last. Let's start out with some of like mini eyeshadow palettes, and the first one I wanted to talk about is this Sigma Warm Wishes eyeshadow palette. This is the 6-pan Warm Wishes eyeshadow palette they released for holiday 2022. It is still available on the Sigma website. It offers a great color story, obviously very neutral, but the Sigma eyeshadows are just very pigmented, easy to blend. You do have 3 mattes, 3 foils, and with the foils you get like a gold shade, you get a really dark shade in here, and then you also get a really beautiful eyeshadow topper. It is the same great like Sigma quality, and you can't go wrong with this palette. I love how compact this is, and if you're looking for an eyeshadow palette that has some really beautiful shimmer, has a great eyeshadow formula, you can't go wrong with this palette. Like I said, it's still available on the Sigma website, and this was one of my favorites to use last year during holiday time. Another palette that's very like travel friendly, great quality of eyeshadow would have to be the NATASHA DENONA Mini Nude eyeshadow palette. Everybody talks about this palette, and this is one of my favorite nude mini eyeshadow palettes. Very easy and very friendly to work with. Even though Natasha Denona's eyeshadow matte formula can be sometimes very like flaky in the pan, or you see a lot of fallout in the pan, overall, like her eyeshadows are very easy to blend and work with, and then she provides these like stunning, gorgeous foiled shimmer shades. Price-wise, her little minis, they retail for $25. It is a great little like travel companion, but I really think that honestly, like you can see it's gotten quite a bit of use out of it in my collection, and it is one of my favorite like nude mini palettes that I like to use. So this eyeshadow palette, it is the Sigma Warm Neutrals. This kind of leans a little bit more on the pink side, but it still offers a beautiful color story. Here's the color story. It does have a little bit of a pink leaning color story to it, but it is a warm neutral color story, hence the name Warm Neutrals. But I absolutely love this palette because, again, it comes with that beautiful blendable Sigma formula. You have a range of not only a neutral section, but also these beautiful pink neutrals. And I think that this palette, if you're a fan of like brown neutrals, but you also like a little touch of pink in your eyeshadow look, this is a fantastic palette to start dipping into like more of those like pinky neutral shades. And again, Sigma just delivers on so many levels with this. You have some of these like more mauve tones in here. The brick red is a little bit intimidating, and it ranges a little bit less on the like neutral side, but overall, with this being named the Warm Neutrals palette, it is one of my favorites. The Warm Neutrals also comes with a double-ended brush. The E38 and the E54 are the double-ended brush, and it does come with a double-ended brush specifically for this palette. Like, I feel very like OG, old school YouTube and old school like eyeshadow palettes when I see this one because of the because of the brush that is included in it. But again, like I said, you can create some very beautiful, like if you want to go a little bit more mauve tone, but if you still want to play with those browns, it offers such a beautiful neutral color story, and it dips a little bit into like the pink neutrals that you see a lot. This palette I picked up at the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty in March of 2023. So like literally this year. And I had forgotten like how beautiful the Lorac eyeshadow formula is. This is actually the Soleil Pro palette. It was recommended to me by Jen Phelps. She was like, guys, this is an amazing eyeshadow formula. I don't know why people aren't talking about it more. And it was was included in the Ulta Beauty 21 Days of Beauty 50% off sale. And I was like, I forgot how much I love Lorac, how much I love the quality of the shadow, how blendable it is. The foils are like super pigmented and like metallic and reflective. When I saw this eyeshadow palette, I loved the layout of it because you get some like pinkier neutrals in here, but overall all the mattes are on one side, all of the shimmers and foils are on this side, so it makes it really easy to break up what you're using. So if you just want to focus on one thing, it really is laid out nicely and very like beginner user friendly. Lorac really does have like such a gorgeous eyeshadow formula. I don't know why people don't talk about it more. It offers such a great variety of shades. You have different types of metallic formulas in this eyeshadow palette, from like a topper to like a super metallic eyeshadow formula. This is one of my favorite shades. It's like a rose gold pink shade, and when I'm wanting that rose gold eyeshadow look, I reach for this palette in particular. I dip into some of my warmer leaning browns. I dip into some of these foil shades and I am good to go. Also bring up the fact that like the size of this is very compact and tiny compared to like something like the Warm Neutrals palette from Sigma. 18 shades in this teeny tiny little palette, but it's totally worth it. Let's step back from some like travel friendly smaller palettes and let's take a look at some mega neutral palettes. I'm not a huge fan of mega palettes by any means, but I have two neutral palettes that like I have them in my collection and they are staples. Like I don't think I could ever declutter them because I love them so much. I love the variety that I get with each one of them. The first one would have to be the Bare Necessities palette from ColourPop. This is the 30 pan eyeshadow palette, and this is a very, very neutral color story with some pops of like pink in here and those mauvier tones. Bare Necessities is actually a like warmer leaning eyeshadow color story. It is not by any means like cool toned at all. And I love how you get like that gradient from like light to dark in this palette, which makes it a really like user-friendly palette. And I find myself reaching into this palette a lot when I'm looking for a lot of like, you know, if I want a lot of variety, if I want to mix my browns and mix my pinks, I find that this is like a really easy palette to dip into and use. ColourPop came out with some of their best formulas in the Bare Necessities palette. The mattes are blendable, the foils are so pigmented, and the black shade in here, the black shade is like the most perfect like black shade to be able to do a winged liner, or if you just want to smoke out something on the outer corner. It is so beautiful for that. Now there are some like satiny formulas in here. There are some mattes with like a sparkle in it. It does have almost like a purpley, almost like purpley pink duochrome in here, but overall this is just a gorgeous neutral palette. If you're looking for something that offers a range from like a warm gray all the way to a black to like a reddy brown, it has everything in here like in the warm color story. Here is the other 30 pan eyeshadow palette that they came out with. This is Stone Cold Fox. This was actually named in one of my like favorites videos. Like this is my jam. This is my can jam. This is an all cool toned color story. Stone Cold Fox is like one of my absolute favorite eyeshadow palettes. Of course, it comes with like a matte black, just like Bare Necessities, but it has some other stories, like it has some other colors in here that really appeal to me as a cool toned lover. Like it has the grays. It also has like your cool toned mauves over here, and they're not warm toned like the Bare Necessities palette. This is just such a beautiful combination of cool toned eyeshadows, and it's literally like punk emo girl Staci's dream. I wish that they had come out with this when I was like in high school. They are still available on ColourPop's website. This eyeshadow palette is like top 3 for me. I love it. It has been a favorite of mine for years. One thing that's also really nice about both of these palettes is that you can pop out the pans as well, and you're able to put them into like a smaller palette if you want to curate something out of either one of these. So investing in like the 30 pan one, I definitely recommend it if you are into popping out the eyeshadows and putting them into something smaller if you don't want to take the entire palette with you. But both of them have such like beautiful color stories. And ironically, at the top two spots are also two ColourPop palettes. One of them is a 16 pan palette. You guys have seen me use this eyeshadow palette on so many occasions. And this is the Not a Box of Chocolates palette from ColourPop. This is just such a beautiful, very warm palette. And it also has some like purpley brown shades in there, especially like this one. It's called 90% Cocoa. It does have some like very like reddish brown shades, very, very warm leaning. I use this for the latte makeup look quite a bit, and I think that this is probably one of the best eyeshadow palettes that ColourPop has ever come out with. The quality is so good. Like the 30 pan palettes are really good, and I think they have a really great formula, probably one of ColourPop's best, but this palette is one of the best that ColourPop has come out with. How you can tell is that even these dark shades, they're pigmented. They blend out beautifully. They don't patch on your eye. They do not diffuse away to nothing. They're just pigmented. They blend out very easily. The foils in here are very metallic. There is one shade that I've never really been like particular to, and that would have to be Peanut Brittle, which I think is when they decided to start doing like it's almost like a glitter formula, but it also feels kind of like a foil formula. And yes, it does match like what I would picture Peanut Brittle as, because it is very like textured, it's like glittery but foily at the same time. It's not like 100% their glitter formula, but that is like, it is how I would imagine Peanut Brittle like feeling like if it were like an eyeshadow. So they did do a good job with that, but it is one that I just am not particular to because it's a very textured, gritty formula. I'm not particular to that. If I have a formula where it's glitter, make it glitter. If I have a formula where it is foil, make sure it's a foil. Last but not least, sitting at number 1 would have to be ColourPop's That Is Taupe. That's Taupe. This is literally a like condensed version of Stone Cold Fox. That's what everybody has said. I would have to concur with the masses that that is a pretty accurate description of what this palette is, but I think this palette is a little bit more than Stone Cold Fox because it does have the Super Shock formula in here, which is the shade Stated. This is honestly one of my favorite Super Shock shades, in the quality of it and the way that it's like an eyeshadow topper, very thin formula. It almost reminds me of the Super Shock shades that came with the Raw Beauty Christie collaboration that they did, but this one is more of that like silver reflective topper. It's not more gold reflective, it's definitely more silver reflective. That's Taupe is like 100% a cool tone palette, and like I said, it is literally like the condensed version of Stone Cold Fox. But what I love about it is that while it is like the condensed version of Stone Cold Fox, it still offers that great variety of like, it has gray, it has a super, super dark, neutral, like very cool tone brown. It has some beautiful shades up in here if you want to do just something really, really light with your eyeshadow. And then of course it has those gorgeous foil shades. But my favorite, and I think the reason why this one stands out above Stone Cold Fox to me, is because it comes with the Super Shock. It has just some shades that are pretty much like basic necessity. No pun intended, no reference intended there. But it is absolutely stunning. This is one of my favorites. And because it is just so tiny and travel friendly, to me this is like the number 1 seed for me. This one is my number 1 neutral palette in my collection. I reach for it all the time, and it is literally my favorite palette. And then my second favorite, like I said, would be Not a Box of Chocolates. Here it is. Here is my stack of top 10 to me neutral leaning basic AF girl, basic B eyeshadow palettes that deliver on so many levels. These are the palettes that have a great color story. They have great pigmentation. They have an amazing eyeshadow formula. They offer a great range of shades in their color stories, and they just offer a little bit extra something of like oomph in their neutral color stories. They are my favorite. If you guys like this video, I hope you consider subscribing, and I hope I get to see you in my next video. Bye!